Don't like my silly job, you don't get its silly perks, by user LittleAirdBird 1991. So I work in technical theatre as an assistant stage manager. There are a couple of theatres in the area but the tech community is rather small so we all know each other. I work for a smaller theatre but I know a few people who work at the largest theatre that hosts the traveling Broadway shows. These shows are really popular and hard to get tickets for if you aren't a season ticket holder, and season tickets can run about $1,000 per seat for 7 shows. Tickets are normally about $150 for an individual show but can go up significantly if they know the show is going to be popular. The husband of one of the directors that I work with is on the board of the theatre and sometimes can score good seats at a discounted rate. This season, Aladdin is coming to town, a show my future mother-in-law has been dying to see. She asked me if I could possibly get her and a friend a seat so they could go see it. I called in a favor with my director and she managed to get 2 prime seats. Since her husband is on the board she gets a discount so the tickets ended up only being $75 for the 2 seats. I reserved them in my name with the understanding that FMIL will pay for the tickets. Fast forward a couple of weeks and FMIL invites me and my fiancé over for dinner. Dinner goes well and I end up in a conversation with FMIL and FSIL about housework. FSIL is a teacher and she is married to an accountant so she said that her and her husband try to split the chores 50-50ths. FMIL thought that was fine and asked how fiancé and I would do it. We don't currently live together. I said probably the same, 50/50. FSIL agreed but FMIL gave me the stink eye. I asked if there was something wrong and she said well fiancé works full-time and you don't so I don't see how that's fair. I told her that I do work full-time just not at a 9 to 5 like fiancé. FMIL then laughed at me and said what I did wasn't real work and that it was just a silly side gig and that maybe if I got a real job I would know what it is like to really work. Then she changed the subject. This pissed me off because I am very proud of the work I do. It may not be a 9 to 5 but I love my job. It is my dream job and I do make enough to cover my expenses. It actually takes a certain amount of skill to properly stage manage a full-scale production. So, enter pettiness. I called up the box office for the large theatre and told them to cancel the tickets. They were in my name so they gladly cancelled them. I then texted FMIL and told her if she thinks my job isn't real then the side perks aren't real so the tickets were cancelled. I then shut off my phone. The next day when I turn on my phone I see several missed calls and about a dozen texts from FMIL. She is fuming because her friend is coming into town specifically to see this play. I called back and told her she might still be able to get seats if she called the box office. She ended up getting seats but they cost her $150 each and they weren't as good. Hopefully she's learned not to insult someone and still expect to benefit from them. Sorry for any typos. AM on mobile at work. Posted to Ida. Man gets mad at me at the gym and calls me a bitch, by user Feng Shui Josmona. This man I see him at the gym all the time, he has never bothered me until yesterday. I see him constantly stopping people and talking to them. So I'm in the sauna and it's a co-ed sauna, I'm in there with men/women all the time, sometimes we don't talk and sometimes we have pleasant conversations. Yesterday was a different story, it was me and one other woman and the man who I see all the time. He is not just talking but talking to the woman, non-stop, talking about his 450k house he just bought and going on and on and on about himself. The woman barely got JN a word rather than yes mhhm. She left and I thought to myself, I'm so happy she's gone so he can be quiet. He turns to me and he says so how you doing today? I say I'm trying to relax right now. He says oh do you mean you want me to shut up? All I did was ask how you were doing. It seems like you just don't want to talk to me. I say nothing. He is huffing and puffing and before he walks out he goes you bitch. I say you cannot cuss at me and make me feel uncomfortable in the sauna, I'm telling on you. He goes I didn't cuss at you. I go to front desk, I tell them they are apologetic, they have the lifeguard look for him and they can't find him. I tell them I have work soon and need to get ready, I shower and I'm leaving. The lady at front desk stops me to tell me that they can't find him, he hasn't left and they think he's hiding somewhere in pool room. Moral of the story, they called me this morning and told me he is banned for life. Now I'm on my way to gym and going to the sauna. Want to steal my customers? I'll point them right to you, by user open_wine5362. I am a hairdresser that rents a booth in a salon as do all the stylists that work there. The owner of the salon is one of my best friends, so after closing the salon that I operated for 20 years, I joined her team and am really happy. I have a wonderful clientele with the exception of a few, which I'll get to in a bit, and get along great with my coworkers except one, Kate. She has a grating personality and for the most part, I can just let her comments roll off my back. She doesn't have a clientele which leads to her having way too much free time which she uses by pestering the rest of us while we are with our clients and butting into conversations that should be private. Recently I had 2 of my clients tell me that when they called for appointments they were told that I didn't have time for them and that Kate would give them a discount if they came in with her instead, but they would have to come in on a day that I wasn't there, so that my feelings wouldn't get hurt. Well, that a load of caca because everyone in the salon knows that if I don't have an opening for someone when they call, they are to take down the name so I can call them personally to work them in. When I confronted Kate about those instances, she just shrugged and said that I was too sensitive, and besides I was too busy so she was really just helping me out. On to the petty revenge. I have a few customers that I have been trying to get rid of for years. You know the ones they are never happy, always late, don't tip, and generally a pip. I decided that if she wanted my customers so bad, I would feed her the ones that I wanted to get rid of anyway. So when they had trouble getting in with me, I would tell them that I was booked out for months but they would be really happy with Kate. She told me yesterday that she didn't know why all my bitcha customers were her problem now. My days are better, it's a bit easier for my customers to book with me, and she is always in a bad mood for having to deal with unhappy customers so much of her day. Plus, a couple of my other CO workers have started doing the same. Steal my identity? That'll cost you $800, by user Corvidias. A few years back I had my identity stolen, right in the middle of a mental health crisis. I was already stressed out and overwhelmed by life, and the identity theft just made everything worse. Suddenly random purchases like iPhones and laptops were showing up on my bills, purchases I had never made. The identity thief opened credit cards with my identity, bank accounts, you name it. The authorities were of course no help, and I felt very alone in this twisted game of whack-a-mole, where every time I thought I had fixed one problem another popped up. I even had a rental car company come after me, as the thief had rented a car in my name and then stolen it. Of course this was a blow to my credit as well, and resolving the whole thing was enormously stressful. Eventually I had frozen my accounts, contested the charges, cancelled the credit cards, and followed all of the appropriate steps. All that was left to do was close the fraudulent bank account. When I went to do so, however, I was met with a snag. I explained the situation to the bank, which was not a bank I personally used, and requested they close the account. They told me that they could not just delete the account, however, as there was money still in it, approximately $800, which would need to be withdrawn. I explained that that wasn't technically my money, and they replied that the account could not be closed with the money remaining inside. An account that I opened, in which I, Corvi Diaz, put my money. So guess who's $800 richer? After all the identity thief took from me, it seemed like appropriate recompense, and only fair, to take a little something back. Edit, wow, I've never had a post gain traction like this before. I'm mostly a lurker, so I just wanted to say thank you to everyone, I'm really humbled. I'm also so glad that my nightmare experience has given rise to a dialogue about how to better protect yourself against identity theft. If sharing my experience can prevent others from having to go through what I did, then something good will have come from the whole miserable thing after all. You wanna kick me out of the house I paid to get into? Enjoy No Utilities, by userheaddrag1440. The time was 2004. I was 20 and very inexperienced in life. I had moved to Arizona and rushed into a relationship with a guy, moving in together within 2 to 3 months of meeting. I made the mistake of telling him I had money, a lump sum I had received from my dad's VA back benefits. He was always encouraging me to spend it and I didn't think anything of it because I loved him. I paid $1,500 to move into our rental, rent, deposit, all utilities. He signed a piece of paper to pay me back half but never did and I ended up moving back to Washington and just left it all behind me. After 5 months of living together, he told me he didn't want this kind of commitment and yes, it was right after I ran out of my money. I couldn't afford this house on my own so I was already looking for an apartment but after a fight, he told me wanted me out in 2 days. Alright, motherfucker. You want me out in 2 days? I went to the electrical company, cable company, and gas company and moved or disconnected all services. I gave no heads up and waited. 2 days later, he called and was calling me a bitch. He had no hot water, no lights, and no gas for his stove. Fuck you, Matt. Fuck you.